Hi, folks. Most of you will know SEAI. Maybe you've kind of dealt with us. Maybe you've gotten a grant from us. A lot of people know us for the home energy upgrade grants. And this program, One Stop Shop program, is another kind of program in that space, in that kind of residential energy upgrade space. So it's concentrating more on a kind of a comprehensive energy upgrade of a residence. Previous and I suppose current programs to date have concentrated on, let's say, a couple of measures rather than a kind of a more comprehensive approach. So what I'll do is I'll kind of describe the kind of one-stop shop and the kind of a quick overview of the registration process. And through that, hopefully you'll be able to kind of understand the skills that are required for a one-stop shop, and also the kind of necessity for digitalization within one-stop shops to kind of achieve scale kind of going forward. I'll quickly, just outline the one-stop shop. Contractor consideration. So that's I'll just kind of outline if there's a company who's thinking of becoming a one-stop shop, what might they be thinking about before kind of committing to that journey. The one-stop shop registration process itself is a two-stage process. And I suppose the reason we do that is the first stage is the kind of shorter process. And, if there isn't, or if the company isn't suitable at that time, it's much better to kind of understand that kind of straight off and feed that back to the company before going into the second stage, which is more about strategic plan. It's more about kind of looking under the cover. It's kind of a lengthier process. The tips for a successful application I've included in the slide deck, just in case there are any companies out there who want to go down this road. I'm not going to go through those particular slides kind of line by line, so I'll skip through those at the end. So what is a one-stop shop? So I suppose it's kind of worth kind of understanding what the kind of grant offering from SEAI has been to date, and that's very much kind of along the individual measure path, where a homeowner would kind of, let's say, identify a couple of measures. It might be attic insulation, it might be kind of wall insulation, and they would source a contractor from one of our registered contractors list. They would pay for the full amount up front, and then after the work is completed, they would claim back the grant from SEAI. And the grant amounts might be 5, 10, 15,000 kind of euros, so that kind of scale. But the one-stop shop is kind of responding to a kind of a bigger scale undertaking, and that's the kind of comprehensive retrofit. And so we're talking about figures of it could be 50,000, 60,000 euro, of which the grant might be 20, 25, 30,000 euro. So it's a much bigger scale undertaking. There are more measures involved, and there's a little bit more kind of in terms of design and required. So really, what a one-stop shop is, it's a complete home energy upgrade for homeowners and for landlords, non-corporate landlords, I would say. So kind of people who find themselves sometimes accidental landlords with one or two properties. It involves multiple energy measure package to achieve a minimum of a B or B2. But you also have to get 100 kilowatt hour per meter squared per year uplift from where you started. So you can't just start at a B3 and just get to a B2. You have to, if you're starting at a B3, you have to kind of go at least 100 kilowatt hour of a jump ahead. There's a wider range of grants, and the value of those grants is kind of up to around 50% of the cost of the measure. the homeowner pays for the works net of the eligible grant, which is different to the traditional method that I kind of mentioned before. So they will pay the one-stop shop the amount of the cost of the energy measures less the grant. The one-stop shop will carry out the works, and then at the end of the process, when the works have been completed, the one-stop shop will then recoup the grant from SEAI. So the one-stop shop itself is, I suppose, that there's a certain kind of cash flow function to the one-stop shop and capacity within the one-stop shop. So the one-stop shop also manages the upgrade from start to finish, including a home energy assessment at the beginning, a grant application on behalf of the homeowner to ourselves. They get access to our systems. They project manage the program, the project from beginning to end, which is much more important when you've got maybe 5 or 6 or 7 measures that you're undertaking. They design the retrofit solution, so they're very much responsible for the design of the whole house solution. And as you'll see later, we'll ask them for kind of PII insurance, to cover that responsibility. They carry out the contractor works, and then they follow up with a BEO. Eligible homes built and occupied before 2011. That's the cohort of homes. And currently you can choose from 20 registered one-stop shops, and they're kind of listed on the SEAI website. Just to say that the Climate Action Plan, which has already been referenced, has a target in it for this year to increase that number of registered one-stop shops to 25. So we are always looking for new one-stop shops to register, and we do have a pipeline of one-stop shops or of candidate one-stop shops that we're working through. In terms of the wider range of grants, this just gives you a little bit of an idea. So there's 3 programs mentioned there, all of them run by SEAI. So the fully funded model is the otherwise known as the warmer schemes, and that's open to homeowners in receipt of certain social benefits. The individual energy upgrade on the right-hand side, that's the one that I was describing just a couple of minutes ago. And then the one-stop shop is in the middle. And you can see that there are extra measures in there, including kind of windows and doors and floor insulation. So that's in order to, if you are doing a comprehensive home energy upgrade, you kind of have to hit nearly every kind of component to kind of to improve the house. In terms of contractor considerations, so for any company who's kind of considering becoming a one-stop shop, there is long-term policy certainty, both at EU level and national level, just to kind of, to give kind of reassurance that this isn't going away. This is going to be a sector in itself that will be active and grant funded for a number of years. The financial certainty, I suppose, comes with, I think it's an 8 billion government funding across kind of residential schemes. This is just one of them, but across residential schemes up to 2030, which is, a big indicator to market that this sector is kind of here to stay. In addition, because the kind of individual projects might be longer than your traditional kind of 1 or 2 measure upgrade, it might go, it might span, the calendar year, changing from one year into the others. And, previous programs that we have often had a stipulation where you had to apply and complete the works and get paid out within the calendar year. And that was kind of for kind of public sector budgeting kind of reasons, but that's not the case in this program. It can, span calendar years. It is a kind of a national enterprise, but it also has a nationwide impact. So it's applicable wherever there's a residential house. So this isn't kind of limited to kind of larger towns or cities. So it is, there's 20 one-stop shops, and all of them will be operating, throughout, certainly in many of them nationally, and most of them, within a couple of provinces, whether it be city or kind of rural. So there is considerable interest from the construction sector. As I said, it is a kind of a long-term opportunity. And SEAI has kind of linked in, particularly my colleague Justine Barrett, who is kind of responsible for supply chain and supply chain development, and others in SEAI have kind of linked in with ETBs in order to try and understand, what the demand is for construction skills, and are there appropriate courses being offered, and to advocate for those to be offered, whether it's for it could be for a tradesperson to upskill kind of at night from, maybe their normal job is just kind of doing new build, but there's a certain other kind of set of skills required for retrofit. And I suppose finally, the final point here on this one is just to kind of say that, even by discounting the grant to the homeowner kind of upfront, they still are required to come up with a significant amount of money. And there will be, it was announced kind of last autumn that there will be a home energy upgrade loan scheme launched this year, and I understand that that's imminent. So you should kind of be hearing about that kind of in the next kind of few days and few weeks. And that's very much to, drive the number of homeowners that want to kind of go down this route. So I'll just touch on the two stages, and kind of what we ask for kind of in each stage. So, and a lot of these requirements, won't surprise anybody who's in business. It's the usual kind of things that you have to have in place. And I suppose these are the ingredients for hopefully a successful kind of one-stop shop. So we'll ask for, in terms of finance governance, we'll ask for turnover of $1 million for the previous 2 financial years. So we are looking at kind of, bigger companies. And that's again to really to kind of make sure that these companies, they're going to be around, for a number of years. They're not going to. That there's a certain kind of stability, but B, that they have that capacity for that kind of cash flowing of those projects. Tax compliance, insurance, I've mentioned the PII insurance, particularly for the design responsibility, warranties and the standing of the directors. Resources, we kind of look for, well, how many people do you have, and what do you have the right skills, and those skills will involve things from marketing, so kind of, I suppose, lead generation, finding those homeowners who are interested, lead management, in terms of actually speaking to those homeowners and qualifying them. Do you have, assessors, surveyors to go out to the house to kind of understand the on-ground situation, the designers to kind of, put forward the right design solution, then kind of quoting for that. And that's just the first half. The second half is delivering all that. So, being able to offer all of the measures that was on that earlier slide, but then also kind of managing all of those measures on site, coordinating the arrival of all of those tradespeople in sequence. I suppose what systems do you have in place to kind of to manage that, but also to inspect it and to make sure that all the work is done to, you know, a certain level of quality, and, you know, when reworks are required, how that happens. So they're the kind of I suppose the you know, a broad brush kind of strokes of the skills that are required. Quality assurance, I suppose, you know, coming back to Sinead's point, we require a quality management system in all of the one-stop shops. It doesn't have to be ISO 9001, but we have a requirements document that outlines what it is. And a customer charter, so that the customer knows, you know, if they have to make a complaint, how and when to make it, and also very kind of conscious about homeowner details that are collected. Systems, again, I'm kind of repeating myself here, so it's just, have you got the digital infrastructure there? Do you have sufficient processes in place? Health and safety is something that kind of any construction company will be well aware of. Environmental management then, so do you have a policy? Does it involve green procurement, and also managing the waste? So that's stage one. We kind of ask for some documents, some proof, but also just for you to kind of let us know that you do have those things. So we're kind of indicating this is where we're going. And then I'm going to quickly zip through this slide, which is the final one. So stage two, then, it's very much kind of going under the cover. It's in more detail, and there's basically 7 areas. So it's vision and mission of the organization, a SWOT analysis, and ongoing risk management approach. So with any business, you know, if you're setting up, you're going to want to understand, you know, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and revisit that maybe on a yearly basis. And then risk management, you'd want to be revisiting that, your risk register, kind of maybe on a 3-monthly, 6-monthly basis. What are your long-term goals and capacity and growth? So are you going to start by doing, you know, 50 houses this year and 80 next year and 120 the year after? Or are you going to, you know, is it going to be much smaller or much bigger undertaking? Do you understand what the homeowner pathway is like, what their journey is like as they go through the system, go through your one-stop shop, and what are your digital systems that you have in place to ensure that you know, that is achieved. The 6th one then is, again, looking at the quality management system in more detail. And then finally, it's kind of touching on resources. You know, what does your org chart look like on year 1, and how is that changing kind of in year 2? And, you know, particularly what skills are you covering? Have you missed anything? You know, are there divisions of responsibility, etc.? So that's it. I'm just going to, actually it isn't, there's one last thing, which is just data security and storage and disaster recovery, just that you're set up for those eventualities. I'm going to flick through these. So if there is anybody who is kind of interested in going down this route, I mean, the first thing is to send an email to onestopshop@SEAI, but hopefully that's given you kind of an idea of what's involved, what the ingredients are for a one-stop shop. Thanks, David. Cheers.